I told my husband I fake it every time we're intimate. His reaction left me speechless. Hello, Reddits. I feel like my life is taking a fast spiral down the hill. I know it's all my fault, but I really cannot lose him. I said something out of anger, and that has now ruined my whole life. It was just something I said because I was really upset, and Peter's reaction had just left me speechless. I told my husband, Peter, that I fake it every time we're intimate, and instead of the pained look I was looking for on his face, his expression had just changed, and he had done something really shocking. He revealed something, a secret that I never thought he would ever find out because of how careful I always was with it. I married Peter because he is wealthy, and he was my key to a better life. Peter loved me right from the start, although he was quite older than me. I saw no reason not to marry him when he first proposed to me. He was rich, stable, and predictable, unlike the other guys I've been with. He was nothing like my ex who broke my heart because he wanted to be with my friend, and he was nice, and he loved spending money on me. I liked it, and at first the plan had just been to collect some money from him and then dump him, because I was still in love with my ex at that point, but when he dumped me, I married Peter out of spite. But marrying Peter turned out to be the best decision. I got to live my life the way I wanted it, and I never had to work a day in my life. I had access to all the funds I needed, and I could do anything I wanted anytime I wanted. Peter made sure I was comfortable. He was always treating me like an egg, and until now, I had no reason to doubt his love for me. But I cannot say the same for myself. My main reason still remained the same for marrying him. I wanted to just live a comfortable life, and I had that with Joe. Even though Peter wanted kids, I didn't want any, and I did everything I could to avoid getting pregnant, and that was using pills without letting Peter know. We've been married for just 3 years, and there was only one part of our marriage that wasn't pleasing: our sex life. Although to Joe, we probably had the best sex life. Well, it's not his fault that he believes so. I pretended like it was so, and I didn't enjoy sex with Joe. He was older and therefore had limited experiences in what he should do to pleasure a woman, and it was always annoying every time we slept together because I only remained sexually frustrated each time while he just had his own pleasure and slept off. There was the fact that he never explored to, and he never tried to. He was always so satisfied with what he did in the bedroom, and there was no quick sex in the bathroom or maybe in the kitchen. There were no tryouts of different styles. You know, all those fun things to do when having sex that would even make one excited to indulge in the act. He was just so predictable down to sex, and it made everything boring within a year. But the money I was getting from being with him had my complaints shoved down my throat. I replaced the frustrations with spending time and money out with my friends, shopping for the things I needed and the things I didn't need. It became a way to stop myself from being frustrated, and I endured it by having different vices, and none of it mattered to Peter because I wasn't cheating, and he believed I love him. Escorting him to those business meetings he had with his other old colleagues were also worse. It was boring watching men with wives or mistresses in those events talk about work, and I really pretended to like it. To Peter, I enjoyed those things, traveling with him on his business meetings and even having sex with him, and I thought I could keep enduring it, just until Peter was too old, and since he had no child, he would probably give everything to me to handle, including his properties and company, and possibly the password to his safe, which contained all his passwords and important documents like the house deeds and all. I pretended to enjoy sex anytime we had it. I even faked my orgasm just to make him feel like a man, and he didn't know of the internal struggle I had whenever we had to have sex. Luckily, it didn't happen often. Peter was old and also a businessman who traveled most times for business, and he didn't have all the time in the world for me as he spent his time trying to manage his business. So it meant I was free from his company and sex for at least 4 out of the 7 days in a week. Although he liked to take me along on those business trips, I only went on a few with him just to keep him happy, and so all of my free time was spent doing the things I liked. This continued like that for 2 years in our marriage until I just couldn't take it any longer and confided in one of my friends. She wasn't married, but she liked sleeping with younger guys and spent a lot of money on them and also recounting the stories to us. She advised me to get a younger guy to sleep with instead of, in her words, wasting away in the old rich man's house, and I didn't take her advice at first. I was scared of cheating on Peter. Although older, Peter was quite smart and couldn't be easily deceived, especially when you had shady businesses with him. The only reason I was able to come that far with him was because he loved me. And it's true what they say about love being blind, right? But then cheating was a whole lot, and I thought I couldn't do it because of Peter. But eventually, Peter started to spend a whole lot of time at home because he apparently had his trusted employee overseeing things for him, and it became so annoying and frustrating having him around all the time. I had to fake it so many times, it became like a routine every night on our bed. He wanted us to spend lots of time together, and he took me on dates. Not to a restaurant or spa treatments, but to learn golf, which I pretended to be interested in, and I couldn't even understand why they kept swinging that stick at that small ball into a hole, or why they clapped when the ball was swung so high. We couldn't even see where they landed. But I pretended to like it. I even cheered him on as he did his thing. The next day, he took me to a party as his date, and it was a birthday party of his old friend. All they talked about were memories of old times and then business, and it was only a matter of time before I broke. I couldn't keep pretending anymore, and it was easier when he came and went. But staying steadily all through 2 weeks, doing the things I never enjoyed all through those weeks, made me want to scream. So I did it. I took my friend's advice, not when Peter was around. Luckily, business needed his attention, and he was finally gone after 2 weeks of agony for me. I went to a club with my friends, and I paid a male stripper for sex right there in the club, and it was thrilling and exciting. All the fun I've restricted myself from having for over 2 years was finally released, and I finally had the orgasm I've always craved for more than 2 years, and I even had multiple ones because of how skillfully the stripper handled me. No strings attached sort of sex, and when he was done, he just dressed up in his skimpy attire and left me to take care of myself. I was so happy and excited, but I never told my friends what happened that day in that bathroom, not even the one that advised me to do it. I felt embarrassed to think I was so desperate I had to pay someone for sex, and I felt it wasn't necessary to recount my sexual encounter with that stripper. So I continued like that. Many times a week, I went to different clubs, with or without my friends, and I paid someone for sex. It didn't matter whether it was the stripper or any other horny male in the club, and there were plenty. It's crazy how easy it is to convince men to have meaningless sex, and I even didn't have to pay most of them, except on days when I had to get a stripper. They all just wanted sex, the same thing as I was finally happy, relaxed even. And my friends noticed that, but when they asked, I only told them I was happy. They assumed it was because of Peter, and didn't ask further questions, and I just let them assume what they wanted to. Peter had also noticed my excitement, and when he asked, I only told him I was happy he was around. Peter must have suspected something because I don't know how he could have done something so brutal to me, but he did, and now I have the rest of my life to pay for it. Well, Peter decided to fire our old chef for no reason and hire a new one. I liked the old chef because she cooked really good meals, but Peter complained that she added too many ingredients that made his joints ache, whatever that meant. But he apparently saw it as a good reason to fire her. I didn't have a say in it, and he apparently compensated her. He hired someone, a guy this time, who apparently had been recommended to him by his friend because of how well he cooked. So he hired him to cook our meals. The shocking thing is the guy Peter hired is Joe, a guy we went to the university together, and the same guy that broke my heart just to be with my friend. My ex, that was who Peter hired. When Peter first introduced us, I pretended not to know him, and I quickly ended the introduction by pretending to have a headache and went into the room. I couldn't believe my eyes. I knew Peter didn't know that Joe was my ex, and I just knew I couldn't have him stay with us. So when Peter finally left for work the next day, I went in search of Joe, who was easily found in the kitchen. I told him he couldn't stay, and that he had to tell Peter that he found out he just couldn't stay. I promised to give him enough money to open up a restaurant or anything, but Joe was quite adamant. He wanted to stay, and he promised never to tell Peter anything about us or about our past together. I believed him and left him alone. I wasn't even mostly in the house, just in the evenings whenever Peter was home, so I felt I could avoid him as much as possible. But Joe didn't make that easy for me. He felt bad thinking I stayed away from the house because of him, and that he was sorry he hurt me the way he did when we were together. He apologized so regretfully, and I couldn't help but feel good when he told me he ended things with her after learning I got married because of how he realized he had lost me forever. I was happy he hadn't been happy after dumping me, so I forgave him. I even started spending more time at home enough to eat the breakfast and dinner he gave me. Joe did know how to cook really great meals, and I was always complimenting him. Peter's travels became even more than usual. He apparently had a business he had to oversee in another state and couldn't afford traveling back and forth this time. He was stuck there for a month. He offered that I come along, but I refused. I didn't want to be stuck in the same routines again. I had preferred my current situation, eating and talking with Joe about random things. We had become friends, so speaking about the past, except our relationship had become the thing we did often. I thought it was cool. I didn't even find myself going out to clubs in search of men to please me anymore. I was content staying back at home and talking to Joe. I thought we had become good friends, which I didn't think was possible between people who were once lovers. But then we were having breakfast and dinner together, sometimes even lunch. Joe was teaching me to cook various meals, and while I was ridiculous at it, I was having so much fun. Too much fun if you asked me, because soon I started to see Joe a little more than just friends. I looked forward to his meals each day, and more so his laughter. I didn't realize that one could get horny with just the sound of a guy's laughter, but that was what happened with Joe. I knew I had to stop whatever was going on between us, but I couldn't help myself. I liked it. I liked how he looked at me when I walked into the kitchen in my skimpy clothes, my tight tops that revealed almost all of my breasts, and my shorts that barely covered anything. I liked how he admired my body when he thought I wasn't looking. I knew it was only a matter of time before he would break, and that time came sooner than later. Only 2 weeks after he started working with us. Joe started to talk about the past, revolving mostly around our relationship, how things had been good between us, and how much he missed us. He even told me that he had never been able to get over me, and how well our sexual life was when we were together. He said many other things like that, and everything kept getting into my head. Until one night, when I couldn't bear it anymore, and I invited him into my bedroom, the one I shared with Peter. I invited Joe into it, and he had no objection whatsoever. We slept together that night, and I thought of it as the best thing that could have happened to me. It was hot and sexy and everything I've always wanted. Joe had somehow gotten even more better over those 2 years at sex, despite his claims of not sleeping with any other woman after I left. I got multiple orgasms, and I couldn't even help myself. Joe just knew what to do with my body. We had sex over 3 times that night, right there in my bedroom. And then the next morning before I woke up, he had gone back to his quarters and was even in the kitchen cooking breakfast when I came into the kitchen. To my shock, Peter was around that morning. He apparently arrived just that morning, and he had asked Joe to cook him something. I had to pretend like I was glad to see him, even kissing him in front of Joe. Peter, for some weird reason, didn't even ask me for sex that night when we slept together, but I didn't even mind. All that was on my head was the memories of what had happened between Joe and I the previous night. So while Peter slept and snored rather loudly beside me, I sneaked out of the room and went into Joe's room just to have a repeat of the previous night. Things continued like that between us for a whole month before everything just went haywire. It was my birthday. I didn't want to celebrate or do anything major. I only wanted to stay at home and perhaps have good sex with Joe again, as I had done every other day. But Peter insisted on throwing me a birthday party, said he had something to give me, a huge, shocking present, and in his words, he wanted the world to see it too. So I hesitantly accepted. I didn't even need to lift a finger because Peter did everything for me. He hired an event planner for it, and she did a great job. He invited everyone to the birthday party, including my parents and even some of my old friends who I hadn't spoken to in years. That morning when I woke up, I had a box filled with jewelry and a dress, a bag, and even a pair of shoes to match. A note was attached to it. It was from Peter, and he wanted me to wear that for the evening. The dress was lovely, but it was so tight I could barely breathe in it, but I wore it anyway, ignoring my discomfort because I wanted to please Peter. When I arrived at the venue for the party in the car that Peter had purposely asked to pick me up, I was really surprised to see everyone. I didn't think it was something as big as that. I had only pictured something simple between us, and then a couple of his friends and mine too. I greeted everyone and then went to meet Peter, who for some reason didn't look or sound excited, as he had days before the party. I thought it had to do with work, so I ignored his countenance, and I kept smiling and hugging everyone at the party. And then, when we all settled to eat, Peter had started to really annoy me. He was throwing jabs at me, and I didn't understand what it was for. While his friends whom I sat on the same table with were trying to compliment my dress, which was barely allowing me to eat anything, Peter made a snide remark about how he was sure I could barely breathe in it. I was upset because he was the one who asked me to wear it, and it meant he knew that the dress wasn't even my size, and had purposely made me wear it, perhaps in his way of telling me to slim down. I felt insulted, but managed to smile. I even grabbed his hand and told him that I wore it for him, but Peter had just smiled crudely and snatched his hand away to grab his champagne glass again. I felt uncomfortable with his attitude, but I ignored it again for the second time that night. But then a friend had made a comment about how lucky Peter was that he had a wife like me who adored him completely, and Peter had laughed and said plainly that it was the other way round, and that any man would be unlucky to have me. I became really upset, ignoring the gasp from everyone on that table, and I stood up. He hadn't just said that comment to a random person. It had to be Beatrice, that gossip who could spread lies about anything in minutes. So in anger, I stood up and I told him that if he thought he was unlucky to have me, he should think twice because I managed him all the time. I told him I faked it whenever we were intimate, and I couldn't stand his boring ass trying to insult me when he had even bigger issues to worry about. Everyone gasped. I didn't know I had said it that loudly, but I was really upset by the way he had spoken about me. But instead of being hurt by what I said, Peter had thrown his head back and laughed. And then he stood up too and signaled someone to bring something. He kissed my cheeks while grinning and told me he wanted to give my birthday present right there, as he couldn't wait anymore. I was confused and still upset. I didn't understand what was going on, even when I saw a large TV screen being rolled in, and then a disc being inserted, and then someone handing the remote over to Peter, who went to stand beside the TV. And when he was sure he had everyone's attention, he played the video. I was so shocked and speechless when the video started. I felt cold shivers down my spine. It was that video, the video that Joe had convinced me to make with him. A sex video of us. He said it was his early birthday present to me. He wanted me to watch it whenever we couldn't be together, and I was horny. It was a stupid idea, and I never should have agreed to it, but I did. And although I never got the tape from Joe, who told me he was trying to save it on a flash drive for me, so I could have it with me at all times. But there it was, playing right in front of everyone. I was so shocked I couldn't even move from that spot. It was after the video stopped playing that Peter spoke up again. He told me that he had his suspicions when I started going to clubs too frequently with my friends. He had always known of my true intentions for him, but he didn't mind at first, thinking that once we were married, I would change my mind and actually love him. But instead I had decided to start sleeping around because I wasn't satisfied with him in bed. And then he had said the most shocking thing ever. He actually paid Joe to come into my life and try to seduce me and see whether I would fall. And I did. He had paid Joe a measly small amount of money to get him to do what he did, and he had done so. Even presented him with the evidence he needed of my affair. I was so shocked, and I didn't even know I was crying until the tears dropped down my cheeks. When Peter saw my tears, he smiled crudely and had told me that he was getting a divorce and that he had his lawyers always working hard, so I didn't get the tiniest part of his money when we parted. Then he walked towards me and kissed my cheeks again and whispered, "Happy birthday, wife," into my ears before leaving the party and inevitably my life. I collapsed on the floor, and because of how tight my dress was, it couldn't take the impact, and so it tore right through the center, but I didn't mind. I was doomed. I got played in my own game. Peter knew all along. He knew I was sleeping with Joe. He was even the one who hired him to sleep with me. I couldn't believe it, and I could barely hear anything. I only saw my mom's mouth moving rapidly and others talking, but I couldn't hear anything. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. I must have fainted after that because I met myself in the hospital when I woke up. I didn't know what time it was because no one was by my side when I woke up. I was all alone in my ruined dress, and I just laid there and cried again. When the nurse noticed that I was awake, she told me I was free to go because I only fainted from stress. She asked that I pay the hospital bill because the people that dropped me there apparently said they saw me somewhere and didn't know me. That brought another fresh tear into my eyes. My trouble wasn't over yet, though. I tried paying the hospital bills with my card, but it wasn't working. All my cards were all rejected. It was then I realized that Peter must have had them blocked. I almost got harassed right there for not being able to pay when a kind man had decided to pay for me. They probably all thought I was some drug addict who fainted when she didn't get any drugs to take and had visited the hospital in search of some. I did look like that in my ripped dress and my smudged makeup and my ruined hair. I walked out of the hospital and I didn't even know where to go. I had no money on me and I didn't think anyone I knew would be willing to let me stay with them. I managed to get someone to pay for my transport fare back home to Peter, but just like I expected, the doors refused to bulge and no one was answering the doorbell, even though I knew that Peter was home. I tried knocking and begging for forgiveness, but I eventually ended up in the police station that evening for trying to disturb residential peace. I slept there and was released in the morning with yet nowhere to go. I managed to find my way back again, and this time, all my bags were out sitting on the pouch. There was no clearer message than that. Peter was done with me, and I really didn't know how to move past that. I managed to get my dress sold for half their prices, and I bought cheaper ones and used the rest of the money to get a small room so I could stay there instead of wandering about. It's been 2 weeks since then. I've had to do the dirtiest jobs like washing plates, serving tables in a bar filled with drunk men who thought you came as part of their drinks that they paid for. I've been fired from different places because of my terrible working skills, just so I can feed myself and pay for the place I managed to get. My life is nothing like it used to be. I've called and pleaded with Peter so many times. I've texted and probably left 1,000 messages on his answering machine by now, but he wouldn't respond to me. I've tried everything that I can, and yet I am still here, desperately seeking help. I really regret everything I did. It's crazy, and you guys will probably think I'm only saying this out of desperation, but I truly love Peter. I'm just sad I discovered that bit a little too late. I love him, and I really don't want to lose him. I don't care for the money. I thought I did, but I really don't care anymore. I really just want Peter back in my life, and I promise I'd do anything at all just to have him back in my life. Please, guys, you have to help me. What should I do? Update. Hello, Reddits. It's been barely a month since my last post. I couldn't even bring myself back here because of how ridiculous you guys have made me feel over the last few days. Admittedly, I'm at fault, and I did do all the things that you guys are accusing me of. But I came here in an attempt to seek redemption or some advice on what to do to get Peter to forgive me. I felt like you cannot just stop loving someone just like that. You'd be hurt, yes, rightfully so, but you cannot just stop loving someone. And I thought that if I asked for some advice on how to get Peter to look past all of the awful things I had done, then everything will be all right again. But then you guys had only shown me how deluded I am. I realize now just how delusional I am thinking that your sins cannot lead someone into hating you. Peter hates me. He really does. He smiled that day. I cannot forget the look in his eyes, and he exposed my sins to everyone at my birthday party. He smiled, and he even kissed my cheeks. That was just a whole new level of hatred, and it's painful knowing that I did that. I did that to myself. I made him hate me that way, and now I regret it so much. You guys haven't even been of much help either. You obviously hate me and have made no effort to hide just how much. I thought coming here would relieve me of my pains, but it had instead increased in more ways than one. I've been insulted more than I ever had in my entire life, and it's so unbearable. This past month, I've spent every minute of my life rethinking everything that I've done. I can't believe I allowed Joe into my life again, and I allowed him to spoil the good thing that I had with Peter. No. I had done that several times before he even came into the picture. I cheated on him several times with different men, all because I wanted some stupid pleasure. Pleasures that are no longer in my life and have absolutely and totally ruined everything I am, and that I have. I should never have treated Peter the way I did right from the start. I wasn't honest with him. I should have loved him, the way he deserved to be loved. I should have taught him things if I wanted him to learn anything. I should have been that patient and loving wife that he deserves. He never asked me for too much, and yet he gave me everything for the whole 3 years together. But instead of doing that much for him, I had done the opposite, and now I'm the one with the losing game. Peter played me at my own game, hiring Joe, the coward who had agreed because of little money. I should have suspected it. I should have known if only I put as much effort into getting to know him as I did while pretending to be with him. I would have known that Peter was planning something as big as that to ruin me. I would have known that Joe was just a facade, and that Peter's supposed 1 month away from home was just to give him enough time to tempt me, and I had fallen straight into his trap without even thinking twice. I feel so silly for doing the things that I did. I should have never slept with Joe, or any other man besides Peter. I should have been faithful. I love him, I love Peter so much, and I regret that it took me this late to actually realize it. If I hadn't done any of the things I did, I would still be married to Peter and would be his wife in every sense of the word. I will still enjoy all those privileges I had always taken advantage of. I will still have a cordial relationship with my parents who presently don't even want to see me around. I would still have friends, well, real ones, and not the odd ones I hung around thinking they were my friends. Except they abandoned me immediately. They cited trouble, none of them ever contacting me since that day. I would still also have a home and not this cold room that could pass out for a refrigerator. I would still be married and not be this divorced, sad, broken version of me that I am right now. My heart beats so painfully every time knowing that I did myself dirty, that I made Peter lose that sparkle in his eyes when he stared at me, that I made Peter hate me to the point of wanting to destroy me so much that he had exposed me in front of all those people. I regret saying the words I said right in front of everyone at the party because I thought I had the right to be angry when I had none at all. I regret cheating on Peter when all he had ever done was right by me from the start of our relationship. I never should have. I should never have been so stupid. I cannot forget the look on his face as he recounted right there on that stage, staring right at me, all the horrible things I was doing and thinking of them as hidden. I cannot believe I tried to play him for a fool. Because I've not only ended up as a fool, but a big pathetic one with absolutely no one on her side. If this is what the rest of my life looks like, I don't think I look forward to it. I don't look forward to a life without Peter in it. I don't look forward to a life full of some pain and regrets that seems to add up every day. I don't look forward to this life that promises nothing but pain and emptiness. I don't look forward to these millions of broken pieces that are now my life, because there's no way to put it back together even if I spend years doing so. I'm shattered, and I'm so scared I'll remain so forever. It's almost surreal, and I cannot believe that I no longer have access to Peter the way I used to. Those moments that I took for granted. Those precious memories I should have worked hard to preserve with all my heart. It's funny the crazy little things you can miss when you no longer have access to them. Day by day, I miss Peter even more, and it's so painful knowing that I could never be the woman by his side again. I could never earn that right again. I've lost it, and I don't get a second chance. Not with everything I've done, thinking of the fact that Peter would probably move on if he hasn't already done so. He would move on with some other woman, someone that would treat him right and respect him, and would never think to cheat on him or mock him with her friends. Someone that would love him the right way, the way he needed to be loved. Someone he would be proud to call his wife someday. Someone with values to add to their relationship. Someone that is totally different from me. Someone who is not me. That thought hurts more than anything else. It hurts more than the insults I've received so far. It hurts more than the loneliness that has haunted me from that day of the party. It hurts more than the thought of spending the rest of my life in solitary. I wish I had a chance to do things over, that maybe I could get the opportunity to go back in time and undo my wrongs. I wish that I could get forgiven for all the damage I've caused, but that will never happen, right? I will never get a second chance. I'm going to be forever stuck like this sad, lonely, and depressed woman with so much pains and regrets to last her lifetime. I hope you guys learned something regardless of how much you detest me. If nothing, learn to hold on to that special person in your life and not let them go like I have, and now stuck with so many regrets. Thanks and goodbye.